In an age of cyber terrorism, modern civilization is vulnerable to all types of digital shenanigans. Elections, commerce, social media. No area of society is free from the danger. But of all the potential threats, there's one which risks our national security more than any other. What could this threat be? The Russians? The Chinese? Actually, the answer is squirrels. Squirrels just want to have fun, but when a squirrel's gone wild on any given power line, damage is tremendous. According to former NSA Deputy Director John Inglis, the #1 threat experienced to date by the United States electrical grid is squirrels. In 1987, a single squirrel caused a 90-minute loss in power for Nasdaq's trading computer, affecting 20 million trades. In 2014, Stuxnet struck again, and the Nasdaq was shut down for another 30 minutes due to a squirrel. But this isn't just one-off occurrences by the squirrel next door. It's so common there's an entire Wikipedia page for electrical disruptions caused by squirrels. The second line of which says, "It has been hypothesized that the threat to the internet, infrastructure, and services posed by squirrels may exceed that posed by terrorists." There's even a sophisticated chart called the Squirrel Index. It has metrics we all know like SQPMS, which is squirrel peaking months when risk is greatest. This might all seem a bit nutty, but it's not just the squirrels who go to war with us. Humans have waged war against several belligerents in the animal kingdom, including squirrels, cobras, mosquitos, tigers, and more. But perhaps the most epic of these battles was Australia's war with the menacing flightless bird, what historians now call the Great Emu War. Dear Beatrice, I am writing you on the 4th month of our campaign. The great enemy, the flightless demon, reflects our bullets. Our armaments do nothing to the armless devil. I fear I may never return. Kiss the children. Yours truly. Dawnbreak on the 2nd day of November 1932, the 7th Heavy Battery fired 10,000 rounds of ammunition in a territory in West Australia. The target? A band of invading emus. By the end of the day, only a dozen birds died out of the thousands that were targeted. The leader of the brigade, Major G.p.w. Meredith, later told the Sun Herald, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." But what started the conflict? Why did Australia go to war with emus? After the First World War, the Australian government developed a soldier settlement scheme where they gave over 5,000 veterans a plot of land to convert into working farms. To satisfy this, the Australian government purchased 90,000 hectares of land in the less than ideal lands surrounding Perth in Western Australia. The inexperienced farmers had difficulty converting the poor land into farmland. Soon, the Great Depression hit, causing wheat prices to sink. Just when it couldn't get any worse, tens of thousands of emus invaded the countryside. You've probably heard of a pride of lions, or a murder of crows, or even a flock of seagulls. But a group of emus is called a mob of emus, a name which proved very appropriate. The mob smote the barren land, and the desperate ex-soldiers petitioned for military aid from George Pierce, the Minister of Defense. Anticipating a swift victory, Pierce answered the petition. War was declared. The military soon realized that they had deeply underestimated their adversary. Within a brutal week of engaging the enemy, several troops were recalled, with thousands of rounds fired and only 50 to 200 emus killed. However, the government wisened up. Instead of deploying their own troops, they placed a bounty on the emus and supplied guns and ammunition to the soldiers who populated the lands in the first place. In the years that followed, nearly 300,000 emus were killed in Western Australia. The Great Emu War is hardly the only case of humans going to war against the animal kingdom. The outcome is rarely successful, and often it can be quite disastrous. In the 13th century, Pope Gregory IV believed black cats were disciples of Satan. He ordered their mass extermination. The kitty genocide led to less black cats, sure, but the result was much worse. With less cats, the population of rats soared. The same rats which carried the Black Plague that decimated Europe. Whoops. Rather than learn from history, in 1958, Chinese revolutionary Mao Zedong declared war on 4 pests ravaging China. These were rats, flies, mosquitoes, and sparrows. The government was effective in killing the pest. However, these animals were critical to the ecosystem. Their elimination caused severe ecological imbalance and played a major factor in the Great Chinese Famine, which soon followed. Whoops, again. Plagues and famine aside, it's difficult for governments to implement defensive strategies for ridding their lands of undesirable critters. In British-occupied India, cobras were highly problematic. The Brits implemented a cobra bounty system to take care of the slithering fiends. At first, the strategy proved effective. The impoverished residents delivered cobra heads to local authorities to cash out. However, after the initial dip in the population, locals began to recognize the opposite. Soon, the cobra population soared, despite more and more bounties being redeemed. How could this be? Well, the people of India were ingenious here. Instead of hunting the cobras, they began to breed them for money. By the time the authorities had caught on and abolished the policy, it was way too late. The cobra problem had multiplied exponentially. This type of unintended consequence from a government policy is today called the Cobra Effect. Nowadays, ecologists try to take more care with how they interact with local biomes. Tactics tend to be more sophisticated. For instance, wildlife managers, when looking to limit the population growth of certain birds, will employ a technique known as egg addling, where they remove fertilized eggs from the nest, terminate the embryo development in that egg, and then return it back to the nest. The bird or goose knows no better and believes the egg is still developing and no longer tries to lay new fertilized eggs. So we've gone from machine guns to egg shenanigans. The lesson here is that... Hold on, wait a second. What was that?